at heart, what 10 Capital does is we help startups and investors connect for funding. We run investor relation programs. We help put pitch decks together, put fundraise strategy together, make introductions, set up events, do follow-ups, and we build diligence reports. And we do quite a bit with AI these days. We just launched our Substack newsletter called 10 Capital Connect, and we got about 6,000 investors subscribing to that, looking to learn more about what we're doing. So we're always looking to grow that. It's a great way to learn more about how you might use AI and other tools to help analyze and diligence your deals. But in short, we provide the legwork, saving you time and money. Next slide. We also help form capital for the early stage ecosystem. We help high net worth start family offices as they invest in emerging managers. We help VC funds find limited partners, primarily through our high net worth and family offices. And we help angel groups find members. We see a lot of individual angels that we think will do better if they're part of a group than by themselves for the diligence and the deal flow. And so we make introductions that way as well. But at heart, we want to see more capital going into the early stage to fund more startups. Next slide. We have several events going on. We're moving to some different formats. The one we're in today is what we call the Life Science Syndicate 10 by 10 session, 10-minute pitch, 10-minute Q&A. We also do a pitch and match session. This is a speed date format that we do where we go through and have everybody do 5-minute pitch, and then we rotate to the breakout rooms and spend 10 minutes with each investor trying to get more exposure to the investors' questions. We have an investor education series in which we do both tech and life science deals, and that's a 10 by 10 format. And we also do in-person live events, typically once a month. We're on our way out to Southern California. We got a great group out there. And then in the spring, we'll be back around Austin, Dallas, Houston, and the Bay Area, and on around the rest of the US. If you want to learn more about our groups, our events, go to 10capital.group and click on the events button, and you can see more about what is coming up. Next slide. For startups that want to join, we always show them this QR code. We've since moved away from just having a big audience because we weren't getting much engagement, and said, well, investors just sit on the panels with us and we'll just all talk about it together. And we had a lot more introductions coming out that way. But in general, if a startup wants to join, we'll be glad to tell them more about our program and see if it's a fit. If you have anybody, please make an introduction and I'll follow up anybody you introduce us to. But with that, let's go around the room and meet the panelists we have today. Let's start with Shelley. Shelley, can you tell us more about yourself and what you do?
Oh, thanks, Hall, for inviting me. Why I'm maybe a judge here is my background is I was the first employee at the company who was first to commercialize SaaS, and we grew from five of us to 1,400 and IPO'd in 3.5 years. So I've experienced hypergrowth and all phases of the startup. And I went on to co-found a few of my own other companies with two other exits. And I have played roles in business development and operations and investor relationships and raisings. And I advise early stage startups for fun.
Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. And next up is Cortland. Can you tell us more about yourself and your group at Suitical?
Sure. I'm Cortland Emmel, CEO of Syndicate Labs. We are a service provider here in Dallas. We've been around for over 21 years now. I've been in the industry for 43. We do assist a number of startups as well as bigger enterprises as well in their compliance efforts. And one of the things we enjoy here is learning about new startups and then also introducing startups to each other so that they can be more successful. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for joining us. And we also have with us Abe Kwan. Abe, can you tell us more about yourself and your group?
Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Abe. I'm a partner at Lowenstein and Sandler, where I am a emerging companies venture capital and startup lawyer. I work with a lot of early stage companies from as early as formation all the way to late stage unicorns that are trying to go public or get acquired and everything in between. Also represent a number of VCs, family offices, angels, so very much immersed in that ecosystem. I've also started to dabble rather as a very, very modest angel investor. So this is a space that I just really care about. If I wasn't a lawyer, I'd probably be a founder myself. And so the next best thing I get to do is live vicariously through all the other founders here who are, crazy enough to try to launch something which I admire so much.
Great. And thank you for joining us. So with that, let's kick off with our first presenter. We have Francoise, Pharma in Silica. Francois, can you launch your slides and kick off when ready? We'll give you 10 minutes to tell your story, and then we'll ask questions.
So
So if you can put in full screen mode, and I think we see your slides. They look good. I think it's
I hope you like the color because there's a lot of it.
okay. Uh, I think two more. There you go. And then we're good to go.
So before I start, I'm at the financing convention in Montreal. I'm in the hallway, so you might have surprise guests.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. We can see your notes currently. So if you want to just go back into presentation mode. You may have to pause and escape from this.
There's one person that knows about that.
Sorry, I can't read it. It's in French.
Yeah, but I'm glad you know about the.
Just, yeah, press the X at the top right left corner. Okay, now let's go into presentation mode. There we go.
That's Kat, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you a lot. Okay, so I'm François Arcan from Pharma in Silica. Our company is based in Quebec City, and I'm in Montreal today. Statistically, at least one person that had to go to a very unprecise chemotherapy treatment. I'm here to maybe tell you something you can relate to, which is how precise chemotherapy could improve their condition. So we'll talk about cytotoxic drugs, which are the basis of therapy. It's a $25 billion market going toward 40 in 2030. They're everywhere. Most of the treatments include at least one round of chemo. They're very tough on the patient and on the family. They provoke all kinds of adverse effects. In fact, that's over than 25 different catalog adverse effects, from hair loss, brain fog, to permanent cardiac and neural conditions. They're costly for the patient, the family, and the survivors. They're costly for the health system because you have to treat those adverse effects. And up to 30% of the patients do need hospitalization for infections and anemia. And so they're bad medicine. They don't even bring a lot of remissions and extension of life. And we're told that 30% of the patient eventually die from consequences of the chemo. Why are they so bad? Most of the drugs don't get to the tumor. Instead, they weaken the immune system and the healthy organs so badly that many patients cannot complete their treatment. The standard of care, if you look at paclitaxel, which is one of the main drugs in this field, the dominance is for two toxic formulations that are quite old, Taxol and Abraxane. And there's a couple of lipid nanoparticles that are emerging in Asia and a little bit in Europe, but with low traction and low sales. And we're aware of several early stage nanocarriers with different technology than ours. In general, the promises are not being filled by these projects. A good chemo would deliver enough drug to the tumor so it's efficient, would reduce interference with the healthy tissue, and would safely excrete the off-target drug by the natural way. This is what we are building. It's called OpTacLi, or Optimized Technical Cell. Imagine this as a very, very, very small truck that carries the drug in the blood and eventually reaches the tumor. The mice told us that they liked it. So after 7 days after an injection, there's still drug in circulation with OpTacLi, which gives a cumulative exposure to the tumor of 21 days after 3 injections of a normal routine treatment. Compare that to the standard of care, Taxol. After 2 hours, there's no more drug in circulation, and which gives a 6-hour cumulative exposure, so a lot less chances to reach the tumor. So this gives very good points to OpTacLi as a higher probability to reach the target and do its job. But because you followed since the beginning, you might wonder, okay, much longer present than Taxol, doesn't that create more damage? Well, no. The immune system keeps working with paclitaxel. You see the purple bars that are far higher than Taxol, which show that the white cells are heavily diminished with the standard of care. The mice seems to be in good health regarding their normal behavior. We found no issues in the kidneys or the liver. An untreated mouse would gain about 20% of mass during 21 days. With OpTacLi, it's almost the same quantity, while with Taxol, it's a lot less. We also found efficacy predictors in that study, finding that there's 5 times more tumor in 5 times more paclitaxel in the tumor with our formulation than with Taxol. How can we do this? We do this in part with silica, which is our material that is not that used in the field. It's known by the FDA, it's biocompatible, and it has a very versatile chemistry that allows us to entrap the drug inside the porous network and to make it so that it's released only in the tumor environment, in part because of the more acidic conditions in the tumor. We are also able to work on the coating of the particle, meaning that it's soluble in water, contrarily to Taxol and other solutions. And it's stealthy, so the blood doesn't seem to attack it as a foreign component. Finally, the green dots represent anchoring points that allow us eventually to add isotopes for radiotherapy or targeting moiety that could influence the on-target rate. So that versatile silica also brings another advantage, that the particle is more robust than other nanoparticles made of lipids or polymer that tend to collapse very rapidly after injection. Business. We will not sell drugs to hospitals or to patients. Our plan is to sell the early stage product to pharma via production and R&D partnerships. Over the last 2 years, phase 1 deals with pharma were worth about $500 million in case of an all milestone success, and the upfront payment was between 28 and 58 million. So this is the kind of price tag we're looking after in the coming years. The first business-to-business approach is to offer safe and efficacious cytotoxic drug, like our OpTacLi, for the former kings of chemo, those big companies that were selling that at high prices 10 years ago, and for those who currently sell the generic versions of the same drugs. The second V&B approach is offering to the cutting-edge oncopharmas our breakthrough products. Those are in development. 2 examples. One is multiple drug combinations, either in the same particle or in several particles that allow to modulate the delivery of multiple drugs. And what we call the super heavy nanocarrier. For those familiar with the situation, there's a a system that is called antibody drug conjugates, in which you can attach up to 7 chemomolecules to an antibody that has some kind of a preference to the tumor. We can attach the same antibody to our nanoparticle and deliver over than 20,000 chemomolecules instead. Those are things that are in demonstration that we will offer to those cutting-edge onco companies. As well, we will offer them a platform to enable their own early-stage candidates or to resurrect failed programs at early stage. So we believe that these 3 approaches will allow us to sell at least 3 licenses by 2029 to be cash positive. And we will be supported by the very generous tax credits we can have in Canada. So far, we've raised 3.5 million of your dollars. And with that, we built our own production capacity. We went to the FDA and got the approval for an accelerated pathway that saves us years and millions of dollars. And we're today at 15 months to the first human study for non-small cell lung carcinoma, the most lethal of lung cancers, with obfectin. We also build a team that represent all what's necessary from the inside to deliver the promises I just made, supported by experts. And next year, we're going to recruit a medical director and a couple of consultants, many of them from the US, for the next steps, which is business development, regulatory, pharmacoeconomics, and so on. We also filed our IP. We have 3 families of patents in 8 territories. Of those, for 24 patents, 15 are granted, including one in Australia last week. We are preparing 2 families of new applications, and we are just enough paranoid and very careful with our industrial secrets, which is a reason why we want to manufacture the drugs ourselves for is up to 1.5 million. It's open until April 26. It's the last part of a 3 million round that we've completed. And the shareholders are accredited investor, local government bank, and the co-founders, including me. There's no controlling shareholders. Our plan for profitability is to spend about 10 million of that capital over the next 2 years with a seed round that we will raise next year, and get the first pharma deal in 2028 to reach an inflection point that allow exit opportunities at a valuation superior to 2 billion in 2029 or before. So there's some relation between you and the idea of poisoning the tumor and sparing the patient. I'll be very happy to welcome you among our shareholders.
Great presentation, Francoise. Cortland, what's your first question?
Francois, I really enjoyed the presentation. I was going to say my background is very similar to what you presented. So I'm trying to ask a question that would not reflect intellectual property. And I apologize. Can you give me a minute to think through this, Hall?
Sure. Let's go to Abe first. Abe, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm also digesting this as well. Obviously, this looks like really interesting technology, and unfortunately, I don't have the technical background to be able to evaluate this on the science. But could you give us a little bit more background on the founding team and their ability to execute and building this out, and that type of thing, like what the plan there is? I know you touched on it a little bit here on this team, on this slide rather, but would love to get a better sense of management's ability to execute on the vision.
The team is comprises lab technicians and silica researchers and pharmacists. Mahmoud, that you see, is a pharmacist. Miriam is a chemist and she's the CTO, and she's been with us for 5 years. She's an expert in nanotechnology, including radiation. Jean-François is has a lot of experience in product development, which helps with the FDA and business development as well. Lily Rose is a new addition. She's a business associate for meeting people like you. And myself, this is my fourth biotech company over the last 25 years, 28 years now. I build complicated things and by making them simple. One of my companies was Medicago, a company that was producing vaccines in plants in Quebec City and got purchased by Philip Morris and Mitsubishi Pharma. The experts are, I won't go around that, but they are those who help us with the things we're not expert in. They're the kind of essential but non-core experts. And the big addition next year will be the medical director.
Yeah.
And you
Makes
can
sense.
meet all of them, Abe, if you want.
Love it. Another question, just to kind of pivot here a little bit. And, you know, as a lawyer, that's initially like my eyes focused on this. It looked like you were raising around, or maybe you've already raised some funding via the sale of common stock shares, which is a little bit less typical, and would love to know like why that was the case.
We're building for the long term, and we believe that the simpler the cap table is, the better. So everyone agreed to common shares, voting, participating, identical, to the exception of the bank that called for, let's say, very light conditions for preferred shares. And we hope to keep that as long as possible. We're aware that other instruments exist, and we're open to look at them. But as long as we work with individual investors, it seems it's easier for us and for the next generation of investors.
Got it. That's helpful.
Great. Thank you, Abe, for good questions there. And let's go to Shelley. Shelley, what are your questions?
Well, I don't have a pharmaceutical or medical background, but I'll ask the business questions then. Well, one question I have around the risk. You're extending the drug in the body, and how do you make sure, or is there data to prove that doesn't increase the risk for patients? It's one of them.
That's a big one. And for the last, for the first 4 years, we were presenting that as an hypothesis. And the idea was that the drug is hydrophobic, so it doesn't like gravity. And the blood is neutral, and it's basically water. So the hydrophobic drug will tend to stay inside the particle. And we've proven that last spring with the data I showed you, and we have a lot more data on this. We can show that the white blood cells that are the first to be attacked by paclitaxel are intact in our kidney. And we've also shown that there is an excretion that is done by the liver and by the natural intestinal and the kidney. So the mice still does discover it.
Okay. And then also, are you in conversations or have any LOIs or any connection to future licensors or acquirers that give ground to your big $2 billion exit?
We decided against going with the gatekeepers of this big pharma. Instead, we've been in contact with medical directors and an external base to confirm our theory and the interest. We have also among our investors, middle managers from AbbVie and from Pfizer. So we have a lot of feeling about what they want and what they're looking after. And contacts will begin sometime in 2026, with the data that I showed you and an additional study that we're doing. the field would be ready then to leave them and start setting. But we don't expect them to put the signal down before we enter the clinic, which is the tradition in this field.
So what is the single biggest milestone you need to hit for them to start being, is it the human trials?
Yeah, I would say early results in human trials will get them very, very great. And if you have time, I would explain the strategy we developed and how we want to approach them. Again, not through the gatekeepers. And normally, the corporate funds of those pharma companies that are more or less independent start to look at assets like ours, like 6 months to IND. When you have your conversation, final conversation with the FDA, when you have your medical director and you're ready to go with the 42 patients, but so if you were around in a year or so, you would start to have answers to this question.
Thank you.
Great. And Cortland, what was your question?
Yes, sir. I've got a background in Taxol and then also in radiotherapeutics.
Oh my God.
I guess going back to Shelley's question, how are you stripping the body of the radiotherapeutics so that you don't continue the radiotherapy that's ongoing, especially if you're using a high energy radiotherapeutic?
I must have been unclear. I apologize. We haven't started to work with radiotherapy. We did develop 2 different tracking systems with isotopes of very low energy to follow the phytochemical in the body of the mouse. The probable answer to your question is
Go ahead and wrap up, Francois. Yes, tell us more.
yep. So we've shown that the particle circulates, go to the tumor, and then and the majority of it is excreted through the liver. So we assume that any radiotherapy will follow the same pattern. But I would really like to continue the conversation offline with you, but then if considering the experience, right?
Yes.
You're really great.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks. Thanks, Francois. Thank you guys for great questions. Next one up is Steve Keys of Intel Care. Steve, if you want to launch your slides and kick off when ready. We see your slides.
All right. My name is Steve Keys, founder and CEO of IntelCare, which is a predictive intelligence platform for senior care. Senior care for us is assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing facilities. When you look at the problem of this industry, most people will tell you that it's the significant growth in the number of seniors. That's not the real issues. The real issue is within the facilities and the communities that are caring for these thousands and millions of seniors. It's falls, it's caregiver shortages, a high turnover in nurses as a result of burnout and the amount of documentation. And then the other issue is the lack of real-time insights. When you talk about falls, okay, it results in litigation, it results in readmission, and it results in star ratings, which are issued by the state. When you take a look at how IntelCare is solving this problem, or these problems, it's really a holistic solution. It starts with using some very innovative sensors. These sensors are contactless. 4D radar with AI. Then there is a platform that was designed and architected to be hardware agnostic. So whatever device or sensor we use, we can leverage that solution. And then the third element that brings all this together is our AI engine, which we refer to as Sienna. And we'll talk a little bit about that. This is a real quick graphic that shows you the devices or sensors we're using. Up in the top right, we're using the sensor for fall detection. Obviously, if the longer a senior is down, the worse the outcome. So being able to recognize and alert staff is very critical. The device in sort of the left side of this graphic is imminent bed exit. Intel Care today is the only company in North America that's able to alert care staff before the individual gets out of bed. That's why it's referred to an imminent bed exit. So when they lift their torso up and they put their leg over either side of the bed, we send alerts. And those alerts, by the way, for all of these sensors, they go to a variety of mobile devices, pagers, phones, to a large dashboard that's typically in the nursing station. The third sensor is our health parameter. Again, 4D radar, contactless. You're not seeing any wearables, no cameras in this solution. We're measuring heart rate, respiratory rate, heart rate variability with that particular solution. This just gives you an illustration. This would be the imminent bed exit mounted on the wall. Again, the other devices would either go on the ceiling or on an adjacent wall. This is an actual setting where we often see a large monitor or kiosk being put in the hallways or in a particular room. The reason why that becomes important is you'll see a very small piece of our dashboard here. All of these devices we have working together for us to be able to track presence. So we know if the senior is in bed, are they getting caregiver assist? Are they in the process of doing a bed exit, or is there a fall in process? We also know if they're in the restroom or bathroom, or if they're sitting in a chair. You'll notice at the very bottom of each tile is the health parameters. So we present that as well. One of the things that we're driving with our AI is really, if you look at AI, and I know it's the favorite buzzword across every vertical, and really it's mostly focused on reducing redundant tasks or bringing in some degree of automation. We are certainly doing that, but the next level that we see to really move this industry from a reactive care model to a proactive care model is using predictive analytics. And the fact that we are capturing health, behavior, as well as medications, care plans, and doctor notes, we can now begin to look at the changes that are occurring in the last 24 to 72 hours as it compared to the last month. And we begin to alert and provide these clinical insights to the care staff through a risk score. We also summarize that risk score so that they're not having to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's changing, whether it's behavior or health. The opportunity is large. You know, I can tell you simply that 11,000 individuals a day for the next 20 years are turning 65. You do the math, you'll have about 87 to 88 million seniors between 65 and 85. On an average facility of 100 bed, you're looking at about 138,000 in revenue for Intel Care. You look at the business model, and we talk about the impact of a reduction in readmissions. Those folks, when they fall or they have a wound that we're able to prevent through our monitoring, that revenue follows the patient. So if they go to the hospital and then to therapy, the facility loses that revenue. The reduction in liability, again, significant issue and very high cost. Medicare reimbursement. We are eligible for Medicare reimbursement through a program called Remote Patient Monitoring that's issued by Medicare. If you look at the business case, on average, every fall costs a little over $5,000. Every 100-bed facility is averaging 8 to 12 falls a month. You're looking at 40 to 60,000 a month in cost. If we just reduce 50% of those, we are doing better than that in the facilities we're in. You're looking at a significant annual cost avoidance. The other thing that happens when you have these issues is the state lowers your star rating. Okay, that stays with them for at least 12 months. You begin to lose and drop your census, costing about $250 a day in the lack of new residents. Lawsuits, on average, settlements are 100 to 500,000. And then the readmissions, when they do go away as a result of a fall or some sort of wound care, you're losing 12 to 18 days, which is another impact to the facility. Our current customers are spread out through the U.S. We are focused on those ownership groups that own somewhere between 20 and 80 locations. We are currently piloting in several of these. So being able to scale is one of the big reasons why we're asking for this capital. Customers, very happy. They're saying good things about us. They're seeing a reduction in falls. They're seeing improved operational efficiency because their care staff is now going to a room to check on a resident, not based on some schedule, but when there's an alert. Okay, so there's some efficiency being gained there. When you look at the competitive landscape, there's really two categories. The legacy systems, which consist of wearables, cameras, bed mats, pull cords. Okay, and then the other side is you've got manufacturers of some of these sensors, and they're somewhat restricted to just using their sensor, whereas a hardware agnostic platform allows us to use sensors from a variety of manufacturers, the best of the best. When you look at our current financials, again, our early adopted customers, we gave them some preferential pricing. Our ARR is only about 120K right now. Our burn's 85. With the beds that we have under contract, okay, that gets us to an ARR of about $500,000. I'm extremely proud of this team. We've got not only a wealth and depth of AI experience in the healthcare industry, but we also have over 30 years of leadership experience, and I'm talking executive director or administrator running assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing facilities. And we have a great group of advisors who provide us insight, diagnosis on trends so that our analytics can be more effective. We're raising $6 million, of which we've now raised over $1 million of the 6. And the target is the first 1.5 is on a $15 million max convertible note, and the valuation goes up from there until we raise the 6. And that's all based on our deployments that are currently scheduled, therefore minimizing risk. That's it.
All right. Great presentation, Steve. Shelley, what's your first question?
Oh, I have many. Well, first of all, well done. You're solving a big problem, and it seems really smart how you're doing it. What seems challenging is sales cycle. What is that? It looks involved because it includes integration. So maybe that's my first question.
A
How?
good question, Shelley. We are already integrated to the two major resident management systems. That's Point Click Care, Matrix. Together, they own about 95% of the market of the resident management system.
Okay, I'm not
That's,
sure how.
that's the only integration.
Okay, and the sales cycle? How are you?
Sales cycles right now are, between 30 and 60 days. And the reason I think it's even elongated is we typically do a 30-day pilot. The pilots are typically agreed to in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, that's impressive. Uh, proof. Oh, do you have what's the data on? Can't read my own handwriting. Oh, these devices, are they prone to break or needing repair, or what happens when they're down? Is that a big support issue for you?
So far, we haven't had any issues with the devices. Every device we've put on the wall has stayed there. These batteries, they don't use batteries. We do our own installation, and all of the firmware or software updates with new analytics is done remotely.
Okay, then I'll yield. But one last question was you mentioned integrating doctor notes so that it was of a more integrated solution.
Yeah,
Curious how that's easy for them to do. How does that happen?
the nursing staff are required by the state to put all of their care plans, the doctor notes, in one of their systems, whether it's Point Click Care or Matrix. Now that we're integrated to those two systems, we retrieve all that data, medications included, as well as our own data from our sensors. That's what is running through our AI models that allows us to provide clinical insights and a risk score.
Okay, and then lastly, are Samsung Ventures and Kuhn Foundations willing to do follow-on investments, and what's your exit hope?
Um, Samsung has indicated they're a one-time investment. Okay. Um, and then Keen is a nonprofit organization. I think that our exit, quite candidly, I'll go out on a limb here. We are talking to a couple different insurance carriers. Number one, the fact that the communities are adopting our technology, we're able to lower their insurance premiums. The other thing the insurance carriers care about is understanding changes in risk score of residents. I think that's where we'll ultimately find an exit.
Thank you.
Great. Abe, what are your questions?
So this seems like a really interesting solution to a very important problem. My question is just
I'm not
understanding.
hearing any questions. It's breaking up.
Oh, can anyone
I
else
can
hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, Abe, but can you repeat it again?
Sure. I think it's like a really great solution to a really tricky problem. And so appreciate the presentation and love the idea. My biggest question is understanding.
I'm so sorry. I didn't hear any of that.
Oh,
Do you have a headset there,
I
Steve, that we can use? Because we're hearing it fine.
Yeah, I'm not hearing. I heard Shelley fine, but I'm not hearing this one. I hear you, Hall.
that's
Hmm.
funny.
I don't
That's
know.
weird.
Why can we all hear Abe but not Steve?
Can somebody repeat Abe's question?
I haven't asked my question. Yeah, I'll ask the question, which is how do the unit economics of this compare to maybe cheaper alternatives like a wearable device that might also be able to detect falls in a similar way, but presumably cheaper?
So, how do unit economics compare to wearable devices, which might be cheaper for detecting falls?
The challenge with wearables, and when I started down this road, I quickly eliminated wearables and cameras. Number one, wearables, they get lost. Number two, they're hard to keep charged, whether you're relying on the care staff or the senior. And the other thing with wearables, they have to be tight enough to the skin, not too tight, so that the sensors are accurate. Um, We do not charge our customers for the sensors. They pay as a community, or we get reimbursement through Medicare. Those are our two revenue streams.
Next question, Abe.
Um, what are the false positive or false negative rates so far that we've seen?
Yeah. So, Steve, what are the false positive and false negative rates you've seen so far?
Very good question. I did not share with you, just because of limited time, we do a commercial LiDAR scan on every room. It takes about 60 seconds. That LiDAR scan gives us a 3-dimension view of every room, and more importantly, the dimensions between every piece of furniture or hardware. We use that because we're able to mask things that the radar might pick up as a false positive. Anything that's vibrating, has fluid flowing through it, we're able to mask. So after about 30 days, you'll see your false positives go down significantly, as a result of the microzones that we build in and mask out the equipment that creates false positives.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Great, great. Thanks, Abe. Cortland, what are your questions?
Yes, sir. Steve, great presentation.
Thank
First
you,
question
sir.
I have is, have you approached TI about being an investor in your products?
We have not.
Okay. Secondly, I'm involved in a court hearing as we speak about a little old lady that basically slipped out of her wheelchair and strangled herself. How would this be able to address that, since it seems to be bed-centered rather than um, mobile patient-centered?
And I will say, we do a lot of presence tracking. So it's not just bed centric. We know how often they got up. Did they go to the restroom? How long were they there? Did they move over to the chair? The other thing we have access to, and I'll give you a real quick story that I think will answer your question. We have access to what's called telemetry video as a result of the radar. It's a bunch of hotspots. We're able to tell the elevation and the XY coordinates of that individual. We had an individual about a month ago, a young lady. The family was very upset. Medical director was there, the owner. They felt she had fallen, and that's what caused her death. The fact is, she got out of bed. We were able to determine this through the telemetry video. She walked over to a chair. She sat down for almost 30 minutes, and then she slumped out of the chair to the floor. It was a cardiac arrest. So that telemetry video shows us where they've been in that entire room.
Interesting. Last question, because of the fact that you're now collecting quality data for the patient, what is your regulatory strategy with FDA for your software?
Well, so far, we are HIPAA compliant architecturally, and we have a great law firm out in New York City that specializes in litigation for facilities. They've been with us now for quite a while. So they've been a big advocate for making sure not only our contracts, but privacy policies, terms of use, our BAA agreements are all in sync with what HIPAA requires.
I'm not talking about HIPAA, I'm talking about FDA.
I'm
Part
not aware
11.
of any, Cortland, of any FDA requirements of what we're doing.
Yes, sir, we probably need to talk. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
All right. Great. We're at the end of our time. Thanks so much, guys, for great questions. Great presentation, Steve. With that, let's move to our third presenter. We have with us the Shape Sensing Company. Ryan, can you launch your slides and kick off when ready?
Absolutely. Thanks, Hall. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
All right, terrific. Well, thanks for having me again, Hall. My name is Ryan DeBoer. I'm the CEO of the Shape Sensing Company. We're based in Austin, Texas, and we've developed a technology that turns ordinary surgical tools into smart devices, allowing doctors to know the real-time location and movement of those devices inside the body without X-ray. Now, the problem we're taking on is that doctors have been using outdated technologies to navigate flexible tools and minimally invasive procedures for far too long. The gold standard is X-ray. It's 130 years old. It requires radiation to work, and it only provides two-dimensional views of the devices and our bodies, which are, of course, three-dimensional structures. Outside of that, they've got point trackers. Tells where the very distal tip of the device is, but nothing about how the rest of the device is moving. And lastly, there are these limited visibility cameras that really have a great view of what's going on the end of the device, but don't tell anything about what's going on with the rest of it. You put it all together, and doctors really have limited information about how these devices are moving inside the body, and that leads to a lot of guesswork, poking and prodding instead of placing devices where they need to go. Well, that guesswork leads to longer procedures, and longer procedures require more anesthesia, higher radiation exposure, higher costs, and have a higher complication rate. In fact, one study showed that for every 30 minutes a procedure extends, you're increasing the chance of a complication occurring by 14%. So unsurprisingly, the industry is demanding better, right? Safer, faster procedures. And we can see this with the latest market trends. We're seeing radiation reduction technologies. We're seeing robotics everywhere. And of course, AI and automation for greater efficiencies. Our clinical advisor, Dr. Gable, said it best. Hospitals need systems that make procedures faster, safer, and more efficient. It sounds basic, right? But what it comes down to is that doctors need to know the full shape of these devices inside the body in real time, in 3D, and without X-ray. Well, that's what fiber optic shape sensing can enable. Full length 3D visualization of devices in real time inside the body. You can see the difference here. On the left side, you've got X-ray, grainy grayscale images. There's a guide wire and a catheter, very difficult to see, and importantly, no context about the depth of that device. And on the right, fiber optic shape sensing. This is our technology, showing the full length visualization of that device, how it's moving inside an anatomy, showing the soft tissue, and giving a doctor a good understanding of not just the location, but the orientation of that device in 3D, allowing them to navigate them with greater precision and safer. Now, the greatest thing about this technology is that it's already proven. There are two companies that have a different version of the tech out on the market. Philips Healthcare and Intuitive Surgical, just industry giants. They share their version of the IP, and they split it along the lines of robotic and non-robotic procedures. Philips has non-robotic shape sensing IP, and what they do is they enable 3D guidance of a guide wire used for endovascular procedures, similar to what I showed on the last slide. Now, they've already shown great clinical value, 37% procedure time reduction, taking over a third off of the time of these procedures. And importantly, 70% radiation reduction for all the staff and doctors that are doing these cases. Now, Intuitive owns the robotic applications of shape sensing, and they put it into their Ion robot. So this is not the Da Vinci that everybody knows about, but their Ion endoluminal robot, which is used for robotic-assisted bronchoscopy. They are by far the market leader in that category with 35,000 procedures last quarter and now over 950 systems installed. So these two companies have this IP. They've proven clinical demand and commercial traction, but that's it. It hasn't expanded beyond this. And there's two big reasons for that. One is IP. They own the IP. They paid a lot of money for it, so they're not sharing it with their competitors. No surprise there. But secondly, it's very costly to make the sensors that they need for their technology. So they are limited to these high cost sensors, high reimbursement procedures that have large margins. They can't access the lower reimbursement, higher volume procedures. So despite how amazing this technology is, there are only two devices in the entire world that have full length 3D visualization, and that's one from each of these two companies. So that's where we come in. Our fiber optic shape sensing technology is going to unlock the entire rest of the industry by enabling any strategic that wants to offer this capability to their customers to use our low-cost sensors embedded into their devices. Being low cost means our customers can target these high volume, lower reimbursement procedures that Philips and Intuitive will never be able to target. And importantly, there are only two ways to do fiber optic shape sensing. Philips and Intuitive own one set of IP. We have the entirety of the other, and there are no other ways to do it. So any other strategic that wants this to offer this to their customers has to come to us. So you can probably see this is just a massive market. We've identified over 100 million procedures that could utilize shape sensing, and we estimate that's roughly a $15 billion market from a bottom-up calculation. We're looking at a roughly $150 per case when you take capital plus disposables. So you take that 100 million procedures, you get your 15 billion. Now, in the near term, we're targeting about a little over $90 million 5-year market capture. And that's by targeting our early markets of endoscopy, vascular, and robotics. And we plan on selling somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 systems. Now, business model is pretty straightforward. We work with the strategics, major medical device manufacturers, and we help them integrate our technology into their platforms. We then sell them the hardware, the systems that they deploy out into the field, and we sell them sensors to be embedded into their devices. So this creates a high growth recurring revenue model, razor blade. Now, every time we get a new application out there, it increases our validation and helps us bring in more partners. Now, the most important part of all of this is that we don't have any regulatory requirements on our own side. We will help our customers as they submit to the FDA. We'll provide them with all the resources necessary, but there is zero regulatory burden on TSSC. In terms of IP, I've laid it out pretty well. There are 2 versions of this technology out there. This is such a key point because one is completely locked up by Philips and Intuitive, and the other is our IP, which we have complete ownership of and 14 plus years of protection. The primary patent was from 2020, and we have 3 separate freedom to operate analysis that have been completed for our tech. So again, if any strategic wants to use this, either they have to convince Philips and Intuitive to let them use their tech, or they have to come to us to use ours. Now, what the difference, just at a high level, comes down to the structure of the sensor. Back in the mid-2000s, the company that Philips and Intuitive bought the tech from created a particular structure of a sensor that enabled this accurate shape sensing. We created a different one using a different type of fiber, low-cost fiber, and there are no other types of fiber that can work with this. So that's where the separation is, and that's why we have such a dominant position here. So the go-to-market process is already underway. We have sold our R&D kits to 11 medical device manufacturers, between $100,000 and $150,000 a piece, and they're all at various stages of validation and product planning. We've also finished up a phantom study, it was last fall, actually. We brought one of our clinical advisors into an X-ray lab. We set up our system in X-ray, and then we turned off X-ray, and we asked our clinical advisor to navigate a guide wire inside of a phantom model using just our system, and he was able to do so successfully. So the technology works. And in terms of external validation, we were part of MedTech Innovator in 2024, which was a great honor. We were recognized by the Angel Capital Association with an award for disruptive innovation. And just last month, we were selected to the Robot Report's top 100 robotic or robotic enabling technologies for 2025. And we fall into that robotic enabling category. Our team is rock solid. Our 3 co-founders have been working together for 12 to 15 years. That includes a previous successful exit with their first company, 4DSP. That was an advanced electronics company. They had a second company, Sensoron, which still exists today, and Pierre remains the CEO of that company. Justin and Alex came to join the shape sensing company 5 years ago when the company was spun out. I joined the company 2.5 years ago now. My background is in medical device commercial roles and mostly sales and marketing of pacemakers, defibrillators, et cetera, with companies like you see here, St. Jude Medical and Boston Scientific, most of my career. We're also backed up by just an outstanding advisory board, 3 vascular surgeons who are, a couple of them are known throughout the world for speaking on the vascular surgery application, which is the one that we target to combat Philips. In terms of the company status, we spun out in 2020, like I said. We raised $3.7 million to date, and we are currently raising a $2 million round. We've got some insiders committed. We've got a little bit of external money committed, about $350 in total. And the terms, since I'm running out of time here, we've got a $2 million raise, 20% discount. This is a $30 million cap that the insiders have committed to, but we're really open to finding the lead outside investment here as well. So let's spend 10 minutes. I'm happy to answer any question.
Thanks, Ryan. Great presentation. Cortland, what's your first question?
Ryan, great presentation. I'm also working on another court case where one of the main parties that you have listed here, a surgeon basically ruptured a vein and killed the patient, and that cost him 25 mil. Um, I guess the question I would have is how fast can you get this stuff deployed so we can stop killing our patients?
Yeah, yeah. So very, very interesting. Obviously, we want to get to market as fast as possible. We're working with some of the largest companies. You can imagine who our customers are. They're Philips's competitors and Intuitive's competitors. We want to get to market fast. It's probably a couple of years before we actually get to market. Where we are right now is we're raising these funds to support our team and build up our team so we can bring on more customers and more strategic partners in the near term. Now, in terms of that particular court case, super interesting. Our technology is kind of a double-edged sword here in that it's a little bit of a big brother in that we can monitor every single device inside the body in real time. So we can prove that a doctor did nothing wrong, but we also see the forces on these wires and could actually say this was moved too fast and too aggressively. I try not to bring that up when there are physicians on the call because that is clearly not something I advertise to end users.
Yeah, in this particular case, basically the vein took a 90-degree curve, whereas the software was showing that it was at a 60-degree curve. And because of the difference in curvature, the physician basically ran right through the vein,
Yeah.
causing the problem.
Yep, that's challenging, and that's where some of the advanced analytics that we can provide would help. All of our measurements are based on strain, which is great because we can see as it's curving more the amount of strain that's happening. So if it's pushing hard against the wall, right now a doctor has to rely on feel. Our system could proactively say, hold off, you're pushing too hard.
Right. And that was part of the thing that I kept pushing on the Philips side. And unfortunately, I guess I was on the opposing side, which gave me the ability to be not very friendly. But it was the fact that each time the physician pushed in the guide wire that it basically bent, and the software basically kept continuing to say that it was at a 60-degree curve. How are you able to prevent and show the fact that it's not a 60-degree curve, that it's actually a 90-degree curve?
Yeah, that's super interesting. So what you may be referring to is CT to body divergence, where we take a CT of a patient before a procedure, we put them on the table, and then you use that pre-procedural CT to navigate the devices, even though the patient has now moved in a different position, and therefore the anatomy might be slightly different. So in that case, we could potentially add in additional sensors like an ultrasound sensor all in the tip of the device that could tell us exactly when it's updating. And this is something we're exploring with these strategic partners that have these capabilities. We could just combine the capabilities and provide a lot more safety.
All right. All right. Thank you, sir.
Great. Shelley, what's your question?
Should I keep it to one?
Oh, yeah, as many as you want. We have 5 minutes left. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We've sold 11 R&D kits.
Yes.
So what needs to happen next for one of them to commit to full commercial integration?
Yeah, so it depends on which path we're looking at. So if we're looking at robotics, the implementation of our technology into a robotic system is pretty straightforward, and the system is almost ready. We do have a little bit more development to take it there. It'll happen within the next 6 months to make that ready. That's a faster integration because all it takes is data coming out of our system and into theirs. On the imaging side, it's a little more complex because if we look at Philips in particular, Philips has this system and they make guide wires with their sensors in it, and then they sell it to their customers. Well, if you look at the market, Philips's competitors, which are primarily GE, Siemens, Canon, etc., they make the imaging system, but they don't make the device. Philips is unique in that they make both. So the partnerships we're pursuing on the imaging side are with imaging companies, and we also have to bring in this third party to bring in the device. So quite frankly, this is a big reason why we're raising right now, is that we know that to coordinate this three-way partnership it's going to take some time. No matter how ready our technology is, three big companies or two big companies in a TSSC, it's going to take some time.
Okay, so that was my next question is why are you doing a bridge now and not just straight to a Series A? Because you seem revenue ready that way.
Yeah, that's exactly why we did a Series A. We probably should have called that a seed round. Regardless, we're approaching the next round, and that will be as soon as we sign that first commercial agreement. So this interim financing will get us to that first commercial agreement, and then we'll be ready for the next round.
Okay, thank you. Those were my questions.
Great,
Good job.
thanks. Hey, what are your questions?
Thank you for the presentation, but can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of the viability of your business seems to hinge on the fact that there are really only two holders of IP that can, do something in this space. And I know you touched on the science a little bit, why that's the case. Like what is clearly like the two IP holders have different patent stacks or IP allowing them to do essentially the same thing. Why is it that like a third party or someone else couldn't move into this without infringing on the patents?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. So it's super interesting. So the Philips and Intuitive IP are using a type of really fancy fiber, and that's why it's so expensive. And I mentioned they can only target there's certain applications. This fancy fiber has multiple cores on the inside to send light back and forth. Their patents are very specific about this, using the specialty fiber to make shape sensing work. The way we were able to enter the market is that we mimicked this specialty fiber by using off-the-shelf single core fiber where the light travels. So we basically took their design and tweaked it a little bit. Now, the coverage we have says anytime you use multiple single core fibers, it's our IP. And theirs is anytime you use one single multi-core fiber, it's their IP. So quite frankly, there's just no other way to make it. It's either you use more than one or you use one, and that's it. So that's why everyone else is blocked. They'd have to come up with a completely different way to do fiber optic shape sensing, not using the same methodology.
That's really helpful. And how long, when did you first file the initial patent? Was it 2020, you said?
2020 was when the first one was granted. Yep.
Were these granted, was this a U.S. patent? Do you have plans to file for international patents as well?
This was U.S., and at the time we did not have the funds to expand. So we've got a couple other patents that we want to file internationally, which we will do with this raise as well, that protects some of the hardware architecture that determines how to get the signal out. So while we can't get the structure of the sensor, since that ship has sailed, we've got other paths that we can get international patents.
Awesome. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, guys, for great questions. With that, let's move to our final presenter today. We have with us Scribble Labs. Go ahead and Sandeep, and launch your slides and kick off already.
Can you guys see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Great. I appreciate it. Well, it's nice to meet you all. My name is Sandeep. I'm the founder of Scribble. We're building the intelligence layer for home health, turning bedside conversations and unstructured data into productivity for clinicians, revenue for agencies, and a safer care, better care for patients. So home health industry is really in a tough shape right now. They're squeezed by the demand that's happening right now, where patients are turning, like 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65 daily. So that's the age for Medicare, and they become eligible. And then clinician turnover is at 40%. And then on top of that, CMS continues to tighten up their reimbursement. So this year's cut was 1.3%, I believe. The last year was about the same. And with the increase in demand that's happening, the agencies are struggling and really need real innovation to succeed. Nothing really radically has changed over the last decades. And now with AI, we have an opportunity, and that's what we're building at Scribble. Is our mission is to have these agencies be successful. So this is Sarah, a typical home health nurse. She drives hundreds of miles alone and sees patients in uncontrolled environments, which is people's homes, and finishes a third of her day documenting in her car or at the dinner table. She's exhausted, and there is no real tech to help her. So Scribble is with Sarah at the bedside, which is in the patient's home. It's in an app that they take with them, and right now we have an iOS app. And then we are in her car or at home when she needs us, so she can really prep for the next day, and she's never alone. We surface the right patient context before the visit. A lot of times these clinicians are launched like saying, okay, now it's an ad hoc visit, somebody new became available. At that time, they're flying blind. The history and physical documents, the H&P documents, the discharge papers from the hospital, they can run like 60, 80 pages long. They just don't have time. And so at that point, they're going into a start of care visit, which is admissions visit, with really not much detail on the patient. And then they end up documenting whatever they're documenting, and then they end up in trouble because they're just not reimbursed, and so there's a lot of back and forth. So what we're doing is capturing every clinical detail during the visit, and we're helping her chart accurately so she can get home on time. So these are some of the biggest ways that poor handoff at the bedside in the patient's home becomes lost revenue downstream for home health agencies. Think of this as like sort of like a black hole or opaque, system in the middle. On this side, you have the patient and the clinician. They're doing whatever they're doing. Clinician providing care at the bedside. And on the other side, there's the back office team that's responsible for billing. Now it's almost like playing telephone. So whatever happens on the front with the clinician, it's a 1.5 hour long visit typically. That is condensed down to like 6 lines of note, right? So all the detail and the context is stripped out. Then what the coder in the back end, who's actually billing for this visit, sees that note and some of the documentation that came from the hospital or the discharge papers, and then they're coding based on that. So you can imagine like things that were discussed, signals that were raised in that patient home never really made to the back, and as a result, it costs agencies hundreds of dollars in missed revenue opportunities. And this happens many times during the process. So that's what we are looking to prevent. Scribble listens. We have an ambient AI platform, meaning it's on the phone. They take it with themselves to the patient home. We listen, and then we take that information, and then we fill out the OSIS documentation, which typically takes them an hour and a half. So we save clinician time there too, which is good. But I think where we're going with this is actually having hard ROI, that all these dollars that are falling off the bridge as the process goes, those are the ones that we're after. That's through quality assurance, through actually making sure that the data is not lost as it moves in the process. So every stakeholder that's involved in the process benefits from Scribble. When we captured the full bedside story at the source, the entire system wins. Some of the others in the industry or that are coming up to, like, their dictation tools, other people looking to do some similar things. We spent a lot of time kind of perfecting our real-time listening, the ambient AI solution in home, because we wanted to not miss the opportunity to be at the source, right? And we're on an Apple device. There's other devices that we could connect to in the future. We wanted to as close to that, so then we can get the signal that comes right from the mouth of the patient and the clinician, and then use that in conjunction with other unstructured data that happens that So much unstructured data flying in home health, faxes, PDFs, other types of things. Combine that and then utilize that to benefit everybody. So agencies protect revenue, clinicians reduce burnout, and then everybody really benefits because everyone in the workflow has the complete clinical picture. So industry is full of point solutions. Historically, that's what's happened. There's documentation tools, QA tools, coding services, but none of them really talk to each other, and that's the fundamental problem. Coders can only work with what makes it into the notes, and if the conversation never really reaches the chart, the revenue never really reaches the agency. So that's leakage. One of our users, a clinical manager, told us that she used to fix 24 errors in a single OSS chart, and now she's fixing one. So that's 23, 24 chances of claim denial or delayed payment. So the industry is focused on saving minutes. We're focusing on recovering revenue for these agencies because we captured the full story before it's lost. So our strategy is structured, product strategies in 3 phases. Phase 1 right now is about winning clinician adoption. So that's what we're doing. We're doing real-time documentation, we do clinical reasoning and guidance, and that's live today. In phase 2, we'll be launching coding intelligence and replace outsourced vendors that cost $64 to $80 a chart. And we want to empower internal clinicians instead of replacing them. There's already QA teams here. If we just give them a little bit more support, they can do their own coding and then not have to outsource. But also they can retain these clinicians that are so valuable to them instead of losing them. Next, we win the network as we start preventing hospitalizations and expand into hospice and adjacent verticals, and then eventually with the data that we're generating, which is so unique, get to work with payers on preventing hospitalizations and such. So we're a team of builders, go-to-market operators, healthcare leaders, and I was an early employee at 2 startups and spent the last 15 years leading digital transformation in the healthcare and human services space. Jayesh Patel, who just joined us as head of product, was head of product at Care First Blue Cross. That was his last job. Previous to that, he was at Castlight that went public, and he was leading product there. And then Andrew is our commercial lead. He brings in deep relationships across home health and hospice, and already making a difference. So we have a strong advisory board with home health, clinical and operational expertise. Market is pretty big. One of our customers, this SMB customer, pays us $100,000 to $115,000 in annual contract value. And if you just multiply that with about 16,000 agencies that are out there, that includes 11,400 home health and 5,000 or so hospices. That's a $2 billion serviceable market. And in our 5-year plan, we plan to capture 323 agencies. That brings us to about $62 million in revenue. That does not include hospice, other products that we're building or might be building, and then potentially working with peers, etc. So massive opportunity, underserved market, very strong willingness to pay. Where we're at right now, we've raised $400,000, and there are several nurse practitioner physicians already on our cap table. We're raising $2.2 million at $12 million value cap, and we need that to launch coding intelligence, which is our next phase that gets us into that revenue capture mode, the revenue capture mode with agencies. We have interest from other verticals as well, like pediatric home health we're talking to. That's not even part of our initial TAM. What we really need is money to unlock some of the, we already have 35,000 visits under contract, which is how we bill. We're only be able to bill right now 20% of that because we need to build the rest of the visits. So some of the money will unlock this further down revenue stream for us. That's it. Home health is future of care. I know it is personal to me. I'm sure you have experienced it. We're the intelligence layer that fixes the economics so agencies can thrive. And we would love to partner with you.
Great. Thanks, Sandeep. Abe, what's your first question?
Yeah, so first question, are there any other players, whether they're early stage startups or more established, that are addressing the same solution here or same problem here rather, and what are the main ways in which you can differentiate or get ahead of them?
So there are startups that are focused on documentation, right? Some are doing dictation. Some are doing documentation that's a little bit more advanced. They're solving that one silo. They don't see what happens before, they don't see what happens after, and then the focus is on saving minutes. Nobody's focused on actual hard dollars that can be generated from this, and nobody's focused on, this sort of mix of unstructured data that we're leveraging to then, prove that there's those dollars that can be saved by agencies, and in some cases be able to make more revenue for them.
That's really helpful. Have you thought about how you're gonna navigate all the protected healthcare information and all that stuff from a privacy perspective?
Yeah, our stack is HIPAA certified or HIPAA compliant, and we don't need anything else. We're not diagnosing patients. We're not doing that. What we're doing is we're enabling clinicians to make decisions. So we surface those insights hey, the patient talked about maybe shortness of breath or ankle swelling. You were there for a hip fracture, but maybe you should look at that, because this is what turns into that comorbidity that can be put in the coding mix that allows the agency to get $300 more for this episode, which they normally miss.
Very cool. That's all I got.
Great, thanks. And
Thank you.
Shelley, what's your questions?
Yeah, I love what you're solving, and that was a great presentation. So if home health agencies adopt Scribble, what's the one outcome you guarantee or hope for, at least in the first 90 days?
45-minute time saving on starter care, which normally takes them an hour and a half. So that's happening already. There's higher retention. We're working with agencies, so we have metrics on how long it takes them to turn around charts. Normally 50% of the time they have a threshold of 72 hours, let's say. 50% of those charts are being turned outside of that, and then our customers well, we want to bill every day. We don't want to wait week or 10 days to bill whoever their payers are. And we're partnering with them to bring that down to a 24-hour period instead of having to wait 5 or 7 days for those charts to come back. So it's the turnaround time too.
Okay, and then so many questions, but I'll just stick with these two. How much, because I'm thinking of other ways you might monetize, and how much proprietary bedside conversation data is yours and could you do something with?
A lot, and all of it. We're actually just this week filing for patent, for broad patent it took us a long time to perfect this ambient AI. It took us a lot of iterations, a lot of sleepless nights. And then as well as how we are thinking about this whole thing about not just saving time, but actually hard dollars that can be, that could be solved for from this conversation. Yeah.
I mean, I could ask more, but you probably want to keep everyone a chance.
Okay, great. Well, with that, let's go to Cortland. Cortland, what are your questions?
Sandeep, great presentation. I guess the first question I have is your data going into the medical record?
Yes, we are integrated with 2 different EMRs right now.
And if so, because you're taking actual patient data, and then you're telling me that you're also providing additional, and I don't want to say diagnosis, but additional questions to ask, which could lead to a diagnosis. How are you integrating that with Part 11 and an FDA 510K for your software?
So far, what we've heard is we don't need to worry about FDA, because again, we stop at the point, Cortland, purposefully. We're not taking the coding liability. Well, first off, we're not doing that today. That's 2027. We're going to work on that stuff. But we're not taking that liability. Where we're saying is, hey, clinician, we heard this. Maybe you want to talk to the patient about this, and then you stop there. And then it's the clinician making the decision and then doing the work after.
But you're still recording that information, correct?
We are transcribing that information, yes.
Okay, that's where we need to talk. All righty, so
Well, great, great.
thank
Shelley,
you.
you had time for one or two more questions?
Okay. So the churn and burnout seems like a big problem you're hoping to solve, but do you have any data that shows you're impacting that?
So agencies are tracking retention quite. Many of them that we have conversations with are actually tracking. So, for example, they're like 30%. Average is 40%, Shali. We heard like 30% is good, 25% is good. Because it's going to take us a little bit longer to be like, this is the impact that we made in retention. We are starting to do that, but we don't have hard number on that today, right? We just started commercializing this in October. So, but yes, absolutely. And that's one of the, when I was first selling this, like, and talking to, customers or beta customers, I was going all about like time saving. What I kept hearing back from them was like, our main reason we want to work with this is because of retention and keeping our nurses. So it's interesting how that's changed. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about liability? Like if there's errors in the documentation, are you guys liable or is the clinician liable? Who?
It's the agencies getting consent from their patients. We talked about that too, and every state has different rules and such. We don't take consent. We have that model. If they want us, we can do that for them, but they're not relying on our taking consent with that. So we don't have liability around that. And plus, we mention everywhere, and I was like, AI can make mistakes. So we tell clinicians to listen. We're not replacing you. This isn't like perfect. It's to support you. The main thing is for clinicians, especially, they want to use this because they want to, they want better life, quality of life. Don't want to be doing, 2 hours of charting every day. So that's where their interest is. But then on top of that, like also lowering some cognitive burden on them, and then providing some tools that you can provide better care.
Okay. And then what's your fastest path to your next 100 customers?
We're talking to some EMRs right now. We think that could really help if we could accelerate that. Building a bigger go-to-market team right now is just one guy with me selling. But we don't have any BDRs, any SDRs. We need to be at events. We need to be doing more face-to-face time. We don't have money for all of that today. So I think all those things are important. I also believe that a social strategy around our influencers, clinicians being influencers in their agencies, like a campaign or stuff around that would be very helpful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Cindy, for a great presentation. Great questions, guys. And with that, we're wrapping up for today. At this point, I go around and ask each of the panelists who would they like to follow up with, and we'll make introductions. And it can be information, it can be feedback, it can be investment, whatever you like. But Shelley, who would you like to follow up with?
I would say, wow, I wasn't prepared for that. In pharma in silica.
Pharma and silica is one. Anybody else? Yeah, Intel, Shape Company, and Scribble. Okay. Next is Abe. Who would you like to follow up with?
I'll put some thought into it, and I'll circle back with you, Hall, if that's okay.
That sounds great. And Cortland, how about you?
Each one, if that's all right.
Sure. We'll put you down for all four. I want to thank you guys for great presentations today and also the panelists for great questions. With that, we'll let you get back to it. And of course, as I always ask the panelists, if you have anything I can do for you, please let me know. Always reach out with anything that we can help with, and we'd be glad to help you with that. We're going to close it out now. If we don't see you, have a great holiday, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Happy holidays.
Thanks.